What is up, YouTube? How's everybody out there doing today? So, in my last video, we had a good little number of internet mechanics telling me that you need pressure behind the fuel injectors in order to test them properly, because they just won't work if you don't have pressure behind them, which they do actually work if you do not have pressure behind them. And they also were saying, there's a lot of comments about, like, there's a few of about the 9-volt being used. And one of the reasons why I wanted to use the 9-volt first was because I didn't want to put a whole bunch of freaking amps towards an injector that doesn't need all those amps and ruin an injector in case they were good. If you guys have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, check out my last video on Ghost. We actually pulled the injectors out because when it was running, when I finally got it running again, because it stalled out on me when I went to go take it for a drive, I took a heat gun and I measured the header tubes, which is a very, very good way to see if injectors are working or not. I know there's a couple of you commented that that doesn't do anything, but it actually does. And the last two cylinders on the passenger side were cold. They were like 140 degrees. The other ones were around 275, 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which told me there might have been something going on with the injectors on that side. So I pulled the spark plugs, took a look at them, checked them all out. They looked okay. And then I pulled the fuel injectors out thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe these Bosch 210s have a little bit of an issue and maybe we need to figure it out. And I used the 9-volt to click them to see if they were opening and shutting, and they kind of were, they kind of weren't. It was intermittent. But I want to reassure you guys, after seeing some of the comments on that video, I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? These internet mechanics, they know it all. So I'm going to do it a different way. So I did a little bit of research, and I found out a neat little way to open these injectors and get them cleaned out at the same time, and hopefully maybe fix the issue that I'm having. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but hopefully it does. I'm going to show you guys what I've done here. So we'll move this cup out of the way because I was using this cup. I actually did 3 of them already to make sure everything worked, and everything did work. I was actually pretty surprised. So basically what I did was I got some line, you know, just regular line. Got my jump box here, 12-volt battery jump box. And I put a little connector on the end of it, as you guys can see, and heat shrinked it as well. The next thing I did, I made 2 of them. So I made one for the positive, one for the negative. As you guys can see, the positive is not hooked up. We don't have that hooked up, and there's a reason why we don't have that hooked up. And then I proceeded to get myself some gum cutter here. Some carburetor parts cleaner, nothing crazy, you know what I mean? And I ended up using heat shrink and taking some heat shrink here and making it thicker and thicker so I can put a tube over it. There's actually a tube inside of here. So that tube goes over this nozzle, heat shrinked, and then this tube here goes over that tube and gets heat shrinked as well. That way it makes a nice solid connection, doesn't leak or anything like that. I couldn't get heat shrink that was big enough. Unfortunately, that was big enough for this hose here, this Russell fuel hose right there. So I just ended up using a lot of electrical tape, and I know that might be kind of one of those, man, Andy, you couldn't even, you know, get the right heat shrink, blah, blah, blah. I looked, guys, and I wasn't trying to spend a million freaking years finding the right size. So duct tape is working just fine. And then what I did was, you probably can't see in there, but what I did was I took this tube here and I shoved it right down in here. So it's pretty far down in here. It leaks a little bit, but it's not anything crazy. So basically, what we're going to do is we have the O-rings off the injectors, okay? And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hook the injector into this side and clamp it down. And we're going to spray carburetor cleaner through it and pressurize it as we're turn the jump box on, as we are tapping on the positive terminal of this jump box to send power through this injector to open it and shut it while I'm putting pressure of this carburetor cleaner on the top of the injector. After I'm done doing that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn it upside down, and we're going to flush, we're going to back flush it this way as well to make sure if there's any gunk in here, we can get it out. Now, I got a nice clean cup here. There's nothing in this cup, as you guys can see. So we've got a few more injectors to do. We've got my messy table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more injectors to do here. Probably not going to do all of them. Probably just do 2 of them for the video, just so you guys get a basic understanding of what we're doing. And we're going to see if anything comes out of these guys in the cup. And that might be our issue here. Maybe there's just some gunk in here, and the other 3 didn't have anything in it, thankfully. So maybe we'll find something in these guys. I don't know. We'll see. So let's get started. Alright, so you guys probably aren't going to see much of me, but that's okay. Nobody wants to see my ugly mug anyways. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to attach our terminals up to this injector, like so. We're going to take this guy here, put it on top, like so, and then clamp it down, that way it doesn't blow off from the pressure. Now this is a tricky thing if you're kind of doing it by yourself, but basically I'm just gonna hold the tube and everything like this. That way you guys can see. Turn the jump box on, and as you guys can see, like, you just want to tap it. So you can see it's opening, but nothing's coming through because I'm not spraying the injector yet. It's kind of a mess to hold this and try to spray it at the same time. So hopefully you guys can see this. We'll start spraying. Ooh. Let it a little bit out. As you can see, there's pressure behind it now. We'll do it one more time. Get a little bit firmer grip on what I'm doing here. It's kind of a pain in the butt doing it one-handed, but we're gonna make it work, guys. We're gonna make it work. There we go. She's coming out. So, see what happens? Too much pressure, it exploded. So, let's get the rest of it out. I'm not spraying it anymore, I'm just giving it some opening and shutting action. And shut our battery box off. And one of the reasons why we're just tapping the positive here is because we don't want to heat up this injector too much. The risk is if you just put it on there and heat it up, or put it on there and let it open continuously under 12 volts, like in all the amperage coming out of this Mako jump box, you're probably going to hurt something. So you just want to tap it a little bit, and you know, as it goes through, it'll go through, but you don't want to leave it on there, that's for sure. So let's turn this around. We're going to go ahead and put this hose on the other side and then back flush it now. So it's pretty simple. Basically, leave everything hooked back up again. There we go. And you can feel this injector is a little warm. But we'll turn this around like so here. And then re-tighten this down here like so. Hopefully you guys can see what the heck I'm doing here. This is actually a pretty simple little task. I should have done this from the get-go, but I don't know. I did it this way and it seemed to work. Turn the jump box on, start spraying, and open her up. And then shut her off. Actually, stop spraying, and then there we go. Get the pressure out of the line. And that's it. Unplug her. So, get them out of the way. Take your hose back off, and you've successfully have done one injector here. There's going to be a little bit of chunk in there, but that's okay. There we go. Alright, so that's the carb cleaner that we sprayed out of there, and there's a little bit of gunk in there. I don't know if that's probably from the injector, but the other 3 had a little bit of gunk in them as well. And but yeah, so basically we'll do another one here. I'm going to empty this out and start with a clean cup again, and then we'll do another injector and see how that goes. Alright, so we have a clean cup again, and we'll do one more injector here. Hopefully you guys can see my beautiful face. Probably not. Probably like, nah, Andy. We don't want to see your beautiful face. Get your beautiful face out of the picture. That's okay, guys. I'm not in love and I understand. I understand. So now, plug these guys back in here. There we go. Get this guy wrapped around like so. Get my jump pucks on. Start putting some pressure to this guy. And a tapper. Hopefully you guys can see that. Keep forgetting to clean them out, like get the pressure out of them. There you go. Alright, so that side's done. We'll go ahead and we'll take this off of here. My line fell out, but that's okay. Turn it around, like so. There we go. Clamp her back down again. That way she doesn't like go topsy-turvy on me and spit the line off while I'm trying to do this stupid job. Put her back in there like so. Reposition my hand and my... Oh man, she fell out again. Unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable. Just trying to live my life. You know what I mean? There. Hopefully she stays in. She's not staying in. I have to squeeze her a little bit. That's what she did. Squeeze her a little bit, Andy. Squeeze her a little bit. There we go. Now she'll stay the freak in there. Gotta find it again. There. Okay. So now, everything's just good for me up here, isn't it, guys? Just trying to live my life. Trying to live my life. Now I think we're ready to go. We'll hold it again. Put it in there. It's opening and shutting. We'll start spraying. Alrighty. Leaking a little bit because of the pressure. Release the pressure. Okay. Go ahead and shut her off. Pull my terminals. Take my injector out. Okay. Alright, so we have a little bit of debris at the bottom here. I started with a fresh cup. We do have a little bit in there. Now, what I'm kind of hoping here is I'm kind of hoping it's not coming from inside the tube there. But, I mean, you can look inside there. It's not really torn up in there that much. So I am firmly believing that that is coming out of the injector itself, or being pressurized out of the injector itself. So that's probably what's really going on here. I think what I'm going to end up doing is, after I'm done doing this little test here, I've got 3 more injectors to do. I'm going to get them out of the way. I'm going to take this all back apart again here, guys. And I'm going to slice it open with a razor blade, and I'm going to see if it's been coming from the inside of here. If it's not, if everything looks good inside this fuel, and this is fuel injection hose, so it is Russell, you know, 250 psi. It's fuel injected hose. If there's no damage inside this hose that I can see, or maybe inside of this hose, then there is definitely stuff in these injectors. They were clogged up a little bit, and that was causing my issue on the car here. Which, if that's the case, if I cut everything open and everything looks clean inside the hoses, and I know that rubber's not coming out of the hoses, it's unfortunate part is probably coming out of, you know, the hoses here, which is a whole nother issue on top of itself. But hopefully, you know, we can get that all figured out and put this thing back together, get it running. All right, so we have our line here. We got all of our injectors clean. Well, supposedly clean. I'm hoping they're clean. Let's get all this junk out of the way here. So much junk laying around. So we got all of our injectors taken care of and cleaned with carb cleaner. Like I said, we're going to cut this line open here, and we're going to see what it looks like inside. See if it broke apart or anything of that nature. Now, if that's facing in a manner which perceiving, oh, by the way, guys, very, very nice knife. I'm not going to use this knife to cut this hose open because I really like this knife. It's a really, really nice knife. Go on their website. Like I said, link in the description below. 10% off if you want anything from knivesdeal.com. So let's go ahead. We got our rusty thingy here, our freaking razor blade. Let's go ahead and cut this open and see what we see, guys. Go. Yeah, other than the cuts that I made, grab the camera here. Other than the cuts that I made, you can plainly see the inside of that tube is good to go right there. So we know everything's good here, so we're just going to throw that in the trash right there. Now we'll check out the big tube here. Put the camera back up on my professional freaking mount system here. Hopefully it stays. So now what we'll do is we'll get this cut open here instead. There we go. Get this tape off here first. Right about there. This is going to take a few cuts, obviously, because this is fuel injected hose, and this is a dull razor blade I'm probably going to cut myself with. There we go. Come on, baby. And the main point of doing this is just to see if pieces were breaking apart inside and like feeding into it and just giving me a false sense of security, thinking that there was dirt in the injector when actually dirt was coming from the inside of my hose, which, as you guys can see plain as day, the inside of that hose is nice and clean. We'll get the... There we go. So the inside of that fuel injection hose is nice and clean, so I know for a fact now, for sure, that there's no way there's any rubber coming out of this hose and going into these injectors. So there's no other answer other than the fact that, you know, there's clogs. There's some clogs in these injectors, and that was my issue. We'll line them all up here. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, these are cleaned. We're going to put them back in the car here. We'll go over here to the car. We'll put them back in the car, put the spark plugs back in, and fire this thing up and see what it does, guys. Probably won't be this video, but whatever. I just basically wanted to show you how to be able to clean the injectors and how to get them to open up with pressure, since a lot of you guys were talking about that in the last video. I want to obviously, you know, do another video correcting myself supposedly, and going from there and doing it a different way, just to give you guys a better understanding. So I hope this helped you out. If you enjoyed the video, do me a big favor, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Instagram, Diablo Formula Racing. Facebook is also Diablo Formula Racing. Deuces, guys.